Hi, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. I'm your host, Becca. I'm a certified personal trainer, holistic health coach, and future chiropractor on my way to figuring out this thing we called life. Now, let's get babbling. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Becca Babbles podcast. Today, I have another interview for you. I'm really excited for you guys to listen to this interview. It was with my dear friend, Leann. I actually met Leann when I was in the pre-DC program and try one. I remember meeting her at like an R2P meeting, and then I think seeing her at the gym. And we've actually been trying to get this podcast recorded since then, but chiropractic school is a crazy schedule, crazy life. So I'm glad we finally actually got to have this podcast recorded, because we talked about a ton of stuff that I think is really important. Leann grew up being a weightlifter and got into powerlifting when she was really young, and it changed her life tremendously. It actually helped her change her views on nutrition and how she saw her body, and we talk a lot about that within the episode. We talk about how strength is just more than something physical and something you perform. It's actually more mental. And then also we talk about how she battled through an injury and discovering that she's more than powerlifting. And I think everyone can relate to that in some form or fashion, because I know for me, when I thought my whole life was basketball and then I ended up not making the team and having this like little crisis inside my head being like, who am I? And we discussed that within the episode as well. So Leann is a doctor of chiropractic currently. She graduated, so congratulations to her. I'm super proud of that for her. She has a passion for working with athletes and helping them perform at their best. She's a 3-time Team USA powerlifter, multi-time world champion, and world record holder. That's amazing. She has a clinical approach that bridges the gap between performance and recovery. She blends techniques like McKenzie methods and DNS and FRC and much more. She's currently actually accepting clients at Complete Health and Wellness in Lewisville, Texas. So if you want to get stronger, move better, and feel your best, make sure you DM her on Instagram at Dr. Benchbabe, which I think is an amazing handle. It's so cool. And you can follow the link in the description that will be below. But I hope you guys enjoy this episode. I had a ton of fun recording this episode with Leann. And with all that being said, I can't wait to babble with you next time. All right, so I want to start off with a little icebreaker. So I know you're super strong. You've got these impressive lifts. I was looking on your Instagram. I wish I wrote them down, but like, oh wait, I think I did. Yeah. So you had like a bench that was like 386.9 pounds, a deadlift that was 418.9 pounds, and a squat that was 523.6 pounds. That's impressive. With that, because you lift super heavy, what do you think is something that people assume about you that get wrong all the time?
I feel like everyone thinks that I'm very aggressive or that I'm like a good fighter. I mean, I did wrestling when I was in high school for like 1 year, but
Mhm.
honestly, that's probably the worst sport I've ever done. Like, I'm not I don't want to say I'm not agile, but everyone assumes that, they're like, oh, I don't want to mess with her because she's so strong. But I'm actually very, loving to all my patients and everyone I come across. So, I mean, that's probably one of the things. I can look intimidating, but I promise you I'm not.
Yeah, I remember the first time we had met. I think it was in R2P club, but I think like when I actually met you was like I came up to you at the gym. I saw your like amazing tattoos on your legs that like go up to your back. Um and I was like, she looks really cool and she's really strong. Let me ask her some questions. But yeah, I totally agree with you that you are like this, like, I don't want to say gentle giant because like you're not that tall, but like that's kind of like what most people think.
Oh gosh, that's so
Yeah.
funny. But I agree with that. I
Yeah.
100% agree with that statement because I think a lot of the times people can perceive somebody off of first impressions, which is like we don't, never judge a book by its cover, but as humans, we tend to do that a lot. And whether that's my tattoos or my build or my strength, sometimes that can be a little bit of intimidating, but I'm very open to always answering questions in the gym, and I love talking in the gym. I'm a yapper, and I can spend like 4 hours in the gym, just whether that's working out and talking or going up to the front desk and hanging out with, whoever's there. Like that's my comfort place for sure.
I love that. And I love that we're able to talk about how like you're just so open to questions in an environment of the gym setting because many people are intimidated by the gym or intimidated by people that lift really heavy, and it's like you are living proof that like if you just go up and ask someone who's lifting a ton of heavy weights, they're like they want you to get strong as well.
There are so many people that have come up to me in the gym, whether that's when I was here in Dallas or in my internship or wherever, and they're like, "Hey, like, do you know how to use this machine, or do you know how to use this?" And sometimes I don't. Being in the gym for so long, sometimes there's new equipment that I have never used before because I'm used to like warehouse gyms, or I didn't start going to commercial gym until maybe a year, 2 years ago. It was always private warehouse powerlifting style gyms. So sometimes I'm like, no, I don't know how to use it, but we can figure it out together, and I'll go walk with them because it's less intimidating when it's two people trying to figure something out, or, rather than just being by yourself. So I
Mhm.
100% agree. Even when I started lifting, it was like, I don't know how to do this. Or sometimes I would feel kind of wonky doing some movements when I first started powerlifting or just getting in the gym. And I would see some of the really, really strong guys or the really, really strong girls. And I would go up to them and be like, hey, like, can you look at me and see if I'm doing this right? Because I don't feel like I'm doing it right. And they were always so, so helpful. So I just want to be that person too for somebody in the gym, because it can be a really scary and intimidating place.
For sure. And speaking about you getting into powerlifting, I want you to like take us back. How did your journey to lifting begin? What was that like for you?
Yeah, I don't really talk too much about powerlifting anymore, just because, I mean, it just doesn't come up in conversation too much, but I started powerlifting when I was in high school. So I had been in softball for years and years and years, since I was like 5 years old, and I absolutely adored softball. It was my sport. And I remember getting to high school, and I was like, I really want to get stronger because I was a catcher at the time, so I wanted to get a stronger arm so I could throw farther, and just so I can be squatting for longer periods of time, because we would go like long tournaments. And the powerlifting coach, we called her Mama. She came up to me. She came up to me. She was the sweetest lady ever. And I'm so glad that she came up to me, and she's like, "You look really strong. You look really strong. You want to come try out for the powerlifting team?" And I was like, I guess so. I mean, that sounds fun. I've always been kind of strong. I would love to do that. And I went, and I was the only freshman at the time, like on the varsity team. And I just fell in love with it after the first practice. And I remember being told, well, powerlifting's the same time as softball. You kind of have to choose. And at the time, it was just a different culture in softball than powerlifting, and powerlifting just felt like the place that I needed to be at the time. And I never thought anything would come out of it, but powerlifting has opened so many doors for me, whether that's in chiropractic or friendships or just networking. And it it's so awesome, and I'm so grateful that she came up to me that day and kind of pushed me to join.
Yeah. Would speaking of like the doors that it opened within that, what could you dive into like how powerlifting has benefited your life in that way?
Yeah, I always like to think about the butterfly effect. Like if I hadn't been here and I hadn't been there, this wouldn't have happened and this wouldn't have happened. And it's so crazy to think those things. And at the time, I was dating somebody that kind of introduced me to chiropractic. I've always been involved in holistic healing when I was younger, but at the time, well, let's go back to high school. So I never thought anything after high school would come out of it, right? Like I was just like, oh, I'm just gonna be in a high school sport. Well, I remember hearing a friend of mine, they're like, oh, I'm gonna go to nationals, and I was like, nationals? I didn't know that that was a thing. And I was like, I want to go to nationals. I want to win the national title. So that year I went, I qualified, and I won my first national title, and I got invited to be on Team USA. So that in itself was like a whole opportunity to not only travel, but to meet different coaches, to meet different people, to see how they trained, and allowed me to get my name out there as just a person, like get to meet people, get to make friends. And at the time, I was still so new to the sport, so I didn't really know what good training styles were, what bad training styles were. I was a high school kid, I was just going in there and lifting as much weight as I could and hoping for the best that my hip or shoulder didn't blow out, right? And I met so many awesome coaches, along the way. And I'm really, really grateful for all the friendships that I made. And it allowed me to kind of like focus on where I wanted to go to college. So I ended up going to UTSA, and our coach, his name is Wes. He was and still is one of the best powerlifting coaches that I have ever had and that I've ever worked with. He is so, so amazing. And he runs this whole facility, this whole gym. So that's where I spent all of my time, and I got to network with him and help him run meets. So now I have the ability to say, hey, I helped, judge at these meets. And now I have this certification to be a Texas state judge. So that's another opportunity where I can give back to my community and be a face for so many other young women too that want to get involved in powerlifting. So I think those are some of the doors that opened up for me. And during that college day, it also kind of opened the doors for chiropractic for me as well. So like I was saying, I was dating somebody at the time, and he was like, I'm going to chiropractic school in so many months. Are you okay with that? And I was like, oh, like why did you choose chiropractic? And he's like, well, I always wanted to be a PT. And I was like, oh my gosh, me too. Like I always wanted to be a PT. I love exercise. I love the gym. It's just something that gets me really excited. And he's like, well, chiropractic allows you to do so much more than what a PT would be able to do. And I've met so many good PTs. Don't get me wrong. I think that they are so wonderful. But as a chiropractor, you're able to make the calls and their own shots, and it's great to co-manage with other people, but you have the ability to say, this is what my patient needs. And you don't really have to take any say so from a medical doctor or from a higher up. Like, you're the doctor, you're the one that's treating the patient. And it gives you a lot of opportunity to do so many things and help in ways other people can't. So, like, if I had never been introduced to powerlifting, I would have never been a chiropractor. I would have been a PT, and because I know so many great PTs, but I would have never been a chiropractor. I've never would
Mhm.
have ended up in Dallas. I never would have met so many wonderful friends. And even, I don't know if you know who Scott is. We kind of crossed paths before we even got into chiropractic school. So he was a powerlifter too. I
Yeah.
remember seeing him at one of the collegiate meets way back when. So it's so funny just how things happen in the way that they're supposed to.
Yeah, that is crazy how like
Yeah.
one little act can literally like ripple an effect into so many
Mhm.
others. I'm curious, like that first training, like powerlifting session, what was that like for you? Because I remember I look back at like my old like recording videos of myself being like, am I doing right form? And I look back now and I'm like, she wasn't even within the safeties.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's so bad. I look back in all those videos and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was crazy. One, it was crazy that I was lifting like that because I could have, hurt myself. And two, it was crazy that I was posting videos like that. So proud of myself. It's great to be proud of your accomplishments, even no matter how big or small. But at the same time, I'm like, oh girl, you definitely had so much work to do at that time. Even even when I was invited to be on Team USA, I remember looking back at my old training videos and I was like, man, that that's something for sure. That is something. And as I got older and I started being more involved in working with different coaches, working with different people, working out with friends, and getting critiques and being so nitpicky with myself, I was able to get better and better and better and learn how to move with intent rather than just kind of hoping for the best. So,
Yeah. Do you have like who's your biggest mentor or inspiration when it came to powerlifting during this time?
oh, wow. I don't know. Like, thinking about that, I had so many good people that I was around and surrounded with. I've always tried to surround myself with people that are, you know, better at me than everything, because if you're the best in the room, you're never going to get better, right? Um, I remember when I was in high school, there was this girl, she was powerlifting captain. Her name was Karina. And she was just so strong. And I remember looking up to her and being like, wow, I want to be as strong as her. And her and, Diana Lynn Bailey, she's a bodybuilder, but she was so strong. And like Steffi Cohen, she is so strong. And she's an enhanced lifter, but she's just so strong. And just seeing so many strong female athletes, it was so crazy to see. And I feel like my parents were always a really big inspiration to me, although they weren't powerlifters. My dad's a powerlifting coach, but they were always a really big inspiration to me, and they always pushed me to do my best. And whatever I started, they were like, well, if you want to do whatever you do, if you want to be the best at something, you can do it. So they were a really, really big inspiration to me as well. Um, and they still are, especially in chiropractic in my entire life. Like, I love and adore my parents. As I was going through undergrad, it started to switch a little bit. So the people that were around me were my inspiration. They kind of like fueled that energy and that fire that I needed to continue with my progress and to continue bettering myself in the sport. So I wouldn't say it was just like one or two people, but it was just my environment, my team that kind of I looked up to.
Yeah, and that just stresses the importance of, I always love saying the saying of like, you are the 5 people you spend the most time with. And having a community like you have just like creates a safe environment to go out and do those like scary things that like you haven't done before. So I love that you have that during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. You are the people, like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. It's so, so true. And I wish more people understood that, because they could better themselves so much just by who you surround yourself with. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Was there ever a moment in your life, because I know there's been a few in mine, where you're just like, something's not right and you had to like switch the environment that you were in, and how did you do that?
Yeah, there's been a couple times where I was like, you know what, this isn't necessarily the right, environment for me. Um, I would say that there was a couple different gyms that I went to, not saying that they were bad or that, they had their own culture, and it just wasn't the right fit for me at the time. And I'm glad that I ended up switching, because I allowed myself to like skyrocket. So I was working out at a gym back in the valley, and they're so great. They're small, like little mom and pop gym, and out of like a barn. Like it's crazy like that. Like you have to drive down the dirt road and get to the barn. And it's so funny, because you think about it and you're like, what? There's a gym back there? That's crazy. And they're amazing people, and wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. But at the time, my numbers kept like plateauing,
Mm.
and I wasn't the strongest. And I wouldn't necessarily say that it was only the environment, but it was like things that I was doing on my end. And then I left to college. So that was kind of when I switched that environment. I went to college and I started working out at TSS with my old coach Wes, and all those amazing strong lifters from all over the United States that go to UTSA. And my numbers just skyrocketed. It was insane. I didn't really change too much. I changed a little bit of my diet and my sleep habits, but my numbers skyrocketed, and it was really genuinely because of the environment that I was in. They always pumped you up. I have so many videos of people screaming at me in the background, like just doing our sets and reps and our training. And it's really something, and it's been really hard to replicate that environment. I've been wanting to get back into powerlifting to compete sometime soon, but it's been so hard to replicate that environment. And I wish I could just take it in my pocket with me wherever I go, but that's where, I don't want to say like powerlifting Mecca is, but I want to, powerlifting Mecca is that TSS San Antonio.
Yeah, and the like I can just like feel the like hype that you get from like any sort
Yeah.
of competition. I know Parker, our school, when they did like the little Olympic powerlifting like thing, and I like did that and everyone's just so like hype. I know like the Team USA Olympic powerlifting team that you were on, like that is probably completely like even higher elevation of that. But I could just like imagine if you had like a giant crowd behind you every day just like hyping you up. Maybe you just need to like record that and then like
Yeah.
listen to that right before you go in and work out.
Yeah. That might be something that I might have to do, or just like rewatch videos. And sometimes like, oh, I don't want to rewatch them because like
Uh-huh.
I know like where I was, and I had to take a little bit of break to better myself for chiropractic and seeing my patients and stuff like that. And sometimes I'm like, I need to get back to exactly that point on where I was. But again, it takes time,
Mhm.
and sometimes you have to train without the crowd, right? And it's always the work that you put in, like the consistency, rather than those moments like that are on the stage where people are yelling at you in the background, and where it gets the most hype. Like it's
Mhm.
always fun to experience that, but sometimes it's the work that you put in, that's consistent when nobody's really watching.
For sure. And I feel like one of those things, and you had even mentioned it, was you had changed your like your diet and like your lifestyle and how you were sleeping and stuff like that. What were the things that you had changed that you had found helped you within your powerlifting career?
So when I was in high school, it was mostly like I was trying to cut a weight class. So I was always on diets, and it just I was doing so many sports in high school. It was crazy the amount of food that I would eat for the how active I was. So when I got to college, I moved up a weight class purposefully. And I remember at the time, like some of my teammates as well as my coach were like, you shouldn't move up a weight class, or, whatever. But at the time, I just wasn't fueling my body. I wasn't eating enough for that time period. I was training genuinely. I was in the gym for 4 hours a session, about 6 days a week. And it was so much on my body. And I just changed the amount of what I was eating. Obviously, the quality of the food is really, really important as well. We kind of talk about that in like nutrition class, and we talk about how quality is really important too. But it was really just upping my protein, upping my carbs, and the timing of my food as well. Like when I would eat, because it really does play a really big factor into how you train.
For sure. And I feel like most people like would think the opposite of that of like, what are you talking about? Why are you adding in like more carbs and stuff like that? Or why would you need to like put in more food? And this idea of like, well, I don't want to get bulky when I lift weights and stuff like that. But you knew within yourself, like, hey, my body needs more fuel for what I was doing. Was it scary for you in that moment at all to like start changing those things? Or what made you realize like, hey, I need to add more fuel?
So it was really scary, especially, you know, I've always been a bigger set female. Like I've always had really, really wide shoulders, like ever since I was, in middle school. And I've always been a little bit heavier too. So just like the culture around eating more for females, it's like, no, no, women shouldn't be big, or women shouldn't, you know, be lifting heavy weights. And that kind of was like everything that I was doing. I was like, I need to eat in order to be strong and to be big and to do all the amazing things my body is capable of. So it was really scary. I remember talking to my teammate, and he was really pushing me. He was like, you should definitely go up a weight class. You would like flourish. You would be so good at that next weight class up. Right now, he kind of had to convince me to say, hey, you're not gonna get strong. You're just not going to. At the time, like you're 18, you're going through puberty, so that's like the perfect time to get strong. Your body is like maximizing on its growth. So it was so scary at first, like seeing the scale go up, but then looking back at like my college pictures, that was the leanest I had ever been. The
Mm.
leanest I had ever been, the most muscle I had ever had. And I'm so glad that I was pushed to do that because I also was dealing with irregular periods at the time going throughout high school because I was always trying to drop weight. I was always trying to drop weight for my weight classes. I was in, like I said, I was in wrestling for a little bit and I was in powerlifting all 4 years of high school. So I would drastically cut 10 pounds in a week and then go back and then cut 10 pounds and then go back, cut 5 pounds, water cut, all this stuff. And it really did mess up my hormones for a good chunk of time. And when I started eating more and exercising, or not exercising more, but, you know, pairing that together as well as my sleep, I started getting my periods way
Oh,
more
wow.
regularly. Yeah, it was awesome. And I was actually super, super happy. Some women are like, oh, here's my period again, right? But I was so happy to get it regularly because it would go a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months without coming in high school. And it was kind of scary. It's like, hey, like what's going on? And I went to some doctors and they were like, oh, that's normal. It's normal when you're, and I'm like, really? Is it? So, you know, it's scary, but it inevitably, like, it had to happen in order for me to, one, get my periods to become regular and to just feel healthy overall.
Yeah. What helped you stay consistent with that? Like, because everyone gets those low periods of like, oh my goodness, I don't know if what I'm doing is right. Was there like someone or something that helped you stay accountable with just continuing to fuel yourself? Yeah.
I It was mostly myself.
Okay.
Uh, I had goals that I wanted to hit, and I just kept telling myself, if you don't eat, you're not going to get strong. If you don't eat, you're not going to win because it kind of correlates with each other. Like you have to be strong in order to win. And I had really, really big goals for myself. And even my coach at the time, Wes, he was like, you're crazy. That's not going to happen. He's like, we'll see. We'll see if it happens. Right. So I wanted to make sure that I proved everyone wrong, and two, accomplish the goals that I set for myself. That's a really big thing that I do is like, if I set a goal for myself, like I need to hit it. So my goal was to, win so many first place medals, right? And to qualify for Team USA again, or to compete at Team USA and win first. So in the back of my head, I'm constantly thinking that. So I'm waking up when I gotta wake up. I am, training when I gotta train, even if it's late, even if I'm tired. You're still going into the gym, giving whatever you got. If 10% is all you got for today, then that's your 100%, you
Mm.
know? And whether that's tracking food, if I only ate 3 meals, at least I tracked it so I know tomorrow when I have a horrible workout, it's because I didn't eat enough. It's because I didn't drink enough water. It's because I didn't get enough sleep. So not every day is going to be 100%, but giving as much as you can those days sometimes is the best that's going to happen. And taking those factors into account is super, super important. So as long as you hold yourself accountable and understand, hey, it's okay to not track every day. It's okay to not hit your water goal every day. Like maybe not okay, but it happens, right? It
Mhm.
happens. So take that in consideration when you go into your training or whatever you're doing.
Yeah. It's going back to that like consistency piece of when you try and go after a goal and you're actively tracking for it, more likely you're going to actually hit it. And I love the saying that you just said where it's like, I might only have 10%, but that is my 100% today. And that's what I'm going to go after because I know, like, especially going through school, there's like days where I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym or like, I just feel like doing nothing. And it's like, okay, but I know I'm going to feel better tomorrow if I at least go for a walk and like get some sunlight today. Like at least do
Yeah.
that.
And you just went through finals too right now, so you can definitely attest to that. How did that go for you?
Yeah, it was a bumpy ride for sure. So it's like the like first 2 days, it's like that first day where you're like, okay, I can study and do this and it's fine. And then like once you hit that third day of finals, you're like, I want to be a bump on the log. But
Mhm.
I like have been doing more hiking than like lifting because like I just felt in that moment that like lifting didn't feel great for my body. But going out for hikes outside with friends, like I got that connection, but then I also like I got the vitamin D and movement in. So like something is better than nothing for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And then not only are you able to just move your body, but you're able to see like all the beautiful nature outside and not a computer screen or a piece of
Yeah.
paper that you're having to take a test on, for hours on end. So that's really awesome. And I know when I was going through finals, it was so hard to also get my butt out there and just move and do stuff. And so I commend you for definitely continuously going on hikes and to just keep your body moving because it's so, so important. It also helps you focus more too.
Mhm. It's so crazy how sometimes we think that like, oh, I got to do this output so then I have more input for like my actual studies when it's like I feel like all I just need to do is study, study, study to get all the stuff done. And like if you took a break, went outside, removed your body a little bit, that actually is going to make you focus more.
Yeah, 100%. Because you're gonna just retain so much more
Mhm.
because you're not having to focus on one single thing all the time. Because we're only gonna remember like the first bit and like the last ending of whatever we're studying, right?
Mhm.
So if we limit that to maybe like we get 30 minutes of study, we get a couple minutes, just walk away from the desk, sit back down, you might retain more information.
For
Something
sure.
that somebody told me one time was have a lamp at your desk, and every time you sit down to study, turn the lamp on, study. And once you feel like you're running out of steam, turn the lamp off, walk away from your desk. And then when you're ready to come back to study, turn the lamp back on, sit down. And it's like a psychological thing. So that
Mhm.
way your body knows, your brain knows, every time that lamp turns on, it's time to study. It's kind of like the when they ring the bell, the dog
Yeah.
salivates. But with us, it's studying because we have so much stuff to study,
That's
right?
crazy.
Yeah,
I might have to try that for the next for try 7, so I'll do that for sure.
yeah. I actually do it to myself sometimes. Like when I'm at home, I have a desk. I have this really pretty like stained glass lamp,
Mhm.
and whenever I have to do homework, because I'm taking a master's in functional nutrition right now, I'll turn the lamp on and I'll get started on my work. And then when I'm like, all right, I've been sitting at a desk too long, turn the lamp off and leave. And it's been really, really helpful actually.
Okay, well, I'm definitely gonna have to try
Yeah.
that out. I know you had mentioned a lot with your goals and like being able to fuel yourself that like getting stronger was like something that was important to you. I'm curious, like, what does being strong mean to you?
There's different meanings for me. I think physically, it's like being able to put whatever weight I put on my back that day. And funny enough, like physical on the physical side, it was I don't want to know the weight. I just know that I need to lift it. So that's every single time. Like any of my coaches know they're like, don't tell her the weight. Don't tell her because it's gonna psych her out. And if she knows that it's 500 and something pounds, at the time I didn't know that I was going to be squatting that. I always tell myself I'm only gonna squat 315. I'm only squatting 315. I just just try my best. So I always tell them, don't tell me to wait. And those are the things that go through my mind. I just have to lift it. So physically, that's what strength means to me. On the other aspect, strength in itself is just, it's kind of like grit. Like, I think strength and grit go hand in hand. It's being able to overcome obstacles no matter how many times you get knocked down and just continuing on your path that you know that you set for yourself, continuing to reach your goals and to do things that are going to help you hit those. So, I mean, a good example would be like my mom when she was raising me, it was me and my sister, and she was a teacher, and it was always her getting one thing done after the other. Like she had two kids and she was getting stuff done. Like she was a strong woman. She's so inspirational to me. And my dad too, like my dad's inspirational. Like both of them are so strong in everything they do. They had goals for themselves and they go out there and they crush them. They set awesome examples. And that's the whole reason why I have this mindset that I do is because of them.
I love that. And that makes so much sense of why there's someone you aspire or like helped you during the time of powerlifting.
Mhm.
Um, was there ever a moment during powerlifting where you just like you couldn't believe that you did something like you had the like, I can't believe I just did that moment?
Yeah, that was the first time that I ever benched over 300 raw. So there's a difference between equip lifting and raw lifting.
Okay.
And I benched 300, I think it was 309 pounds. It was in a competition, the last competition that I did right before I started chiropractic school. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was always a goal of mine.
Yeah.
Because like with a powerlifting suit on, it helps you stay a little bit more stiff. So
Hmm.
there's a difference between equip lifting versus raw lifting. So equip lifting, you're wearing those suits, and raw lifting, it's just like you're going in a singlet, like kind of like a wrestling singlet, like that's elastic and just like a cotton t-shirt, and you're going out there and just being strong. And I remember I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I just benched over 300 for the first time ever in a competition. I feel like that makes a really big difference versus like when it's in training, because you can say that you do this in training all day long, but there's no actual record aside from taking a video of it, right? There's no
Hmm.
actual record online. And like if you look up my name, like you can see all my records and stuff like that. And that I think that one is my favorite record. And it's not even a world, like it was a unofficial junior world record or something, but it was never an official record just because there was no IPF judges there. But that's one of the most meaningful lifts to me that I've ever done in powerlifting, because I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. That was awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm curious, what do you wish every girl would know about lifting?
I wish every girl would know that it doesn't make you look bulky like a man. I
Mm,
remember going through high school, and it was way before. I feel like powerlifting and lifting in general has become such a trend now, which is so awesome. I absolutely love it. I love that so many women want to be strong and get in the gym and get involved. It gets me so happy and excited. Like I just get so fired up. But I remember when I was in high school, it was like, oh, you're gonna look like a boy. You're gonna, you know, why are you doing that? That's a boy sport. You shouldn't be doing that. And at the time, I was like, I don't really care if it's a boy sport or not. Like this is what I like.
mhm,
So I wish that girls knew that it's not as scary as it seems, and you're not going to be big and bulky from working out, you know, for the rest. Like working out is so good for you, whether that's lifting or whatever type of exercise you want to do. Don't be scared and just kind of try it out. I think that's something that everyone should do, not just females, but I think you should just go try it. Just go try it,
mhm.
even if it's scary.
I feel like if you do lifting for at least a month, like true good lifting, you're gonna get hooked. Especially if
Yeah,
you're a female. Like
yeah,
it makes you feel independent. It makes you feel powerful. Anytime I go into a deadlift workout, like when I see on my plan, I got deadlifts coming up, I'm like, oh, she's gonna be a powerhouse today. It's gonna be
yeah,
great.
yeah. And like, so for you, it's like everyone finds their like lift that they love, and like for you, it's deadlift, right? For
Hmm.
me, it was bench, and like I've known other people where they're like, I love squatting 3 times a week, and I'm like, more power to you if you're squatting 3 times a week. I used to do that, and I was that was so much volume for my legs. But some girls, they that's their lift where they feel the most powerful, and they feel, like you said, the most independent, and they just feel like superwoman, which
Hmm.
is like an awesome feeling to have. Do you ever feel like superwoman when you're
Oh, for
deadlifting?
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome to have those feelings, because at a point in time, not too long ago, women weren't even able to compete in certain sports, right?
Hmm.
So now, not only are women able to compete in sports, but now they're able to compete in strength sports. Like this is a whole different ball game. Like it's so cool, and I love to see the way that it's evolving. And even at Park the Gym, like I think you've seen it yourself. There's so many chiropractic females that are there in the gym getting their lifts in between classes or early in the morning, in the night or whatever, and it's so refreshing to see. It's
Oh,
awesome.
for sure. What would you, because I know there are still some women out there that are like afraid of getting bulky, but even injured. Like, what would you tell that person who's afraid of getting injured when it comes to lifting?
I would say definitely find somebody that has worked with female athletes before. Even
Hmm.
if you don't consider yourself an athlete, I feel like everyone is an athlete in their own way. Find a personal trainer, or, there's a bunch of different classes too. Um, get involved in something, in a club, in anything where there's multiple people, because then that's where you can ask questions like, hey, like, I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. Can you look, or can you spot me? I don't know if I'm going low enough, or, I'm scared to do this. Am I doing it the wrong way? Is there a better way to do it? So definitely working in a group class, or with a really good personal trainer.
For sure. And like, I know we had joked about at the beginning of the podcast how like we looked back at videos and we were like, oh my goodness, I can't believe like the form was not that great. But like, you're not going to hurt yourself, especially the first time going out there and like trying these new lifts and stuff like that. And I think females especially tend to get like really in their head about like, oh, this is going to hurt me. And it's like, no, like at least go and try it. Yeah, you can start off with a lightweight and then slowly increase it from there.
Yeah, and I think a big thing is like, so our body is so resilient, and that's one thing that I pride myself on making my patients know, is that you're not your injury. You're not the diagnosis that you're coming in with. You are not that. Your body is so resilient. And even if, like, let's say we overdid it one day, your body is so resilient that if it's not something super crazy, like, you're going to feel better within the next 2, 3 days, right? So when you go into the gym, obviously don't load up 7,000 pounds on the bar and try to squat it if you've never squatted before, but take it easy. Figure it out. Maybe do a dumbbell first, or kettlebell, and then load up just the bar and just kind of work your way to something that feels comfortable. You don't have to be pushing it 100% every single time you're in the gym. Just
Mhm.
enough for whatever your body is wanting that day.
For sure. And I know yourself, like you dealt with an injury within school. What
Mhm.
was that like for you to experience dealing with an injury during like I know like the gym was probably like your escape from school. What was
Mhm.
that like dealing with an injury and how did you get through that?
It was so hard because my whole life, like ever since high school, my identity was powerlifting. And I
Mhm.
quickly realized that I'm not just powerlifting. And it was very hard for me at first. I was not in a good headspace at the time, just because, like you said, like the gym was a place for me to go and to just get away from everything. At the time, I had to really take a step back from the gym because I wasn't able to load weight axially on my spine. Like, anything and everything would aggravate it. And even to this day, sometimes, like, maybe a couple months back is when it finally resolved, and I started going back to the gym and like lifting heavy again, which was super exciting. But throughout that whole time, I would go to the gym and get so frustrated, and it didn't seem like an outlet for me anymore. But a big thing that I did was I joined clubs, so like R2P, and I surrounded myself with people that knew more than me. So I would ask questions and be like, hey, like, I'm dealing with this. Can you like help me out? And we're practicing on each other anyway. We're going through school, right? So it's like, why not look at this interesting case that I'm dealing with? Because flexion hurt, extension hurt, lateral shear hurt, like loading anything. I was in agony. And at the time, like even like light touch like this on my low back felt like cigarette burns,
Oh wow.
which it was so crazy that I was dealing with all this stuff. And that's when I kind of dove into like DNS, and that really sparked a lot of questions for me, because I was like, okay, now I'm getting a little bit of relief. So I'm interested. Let's see what's there, right? So that really helped me. And then the DMAX, right?
Mhm.
DMAX are just so knowledgeable and wonderful, and I'm so grateful that we have them here at Parker. because I would not know all the things that I do if they weren't here. And they really taught me how to find the low hanging fruit, right? And like go for that and just run with it. And that was really really helped me understand my body better and help myself rehab myself back to being able to lift again.
Yeah. I love how you were able to like see through the injury because and this is probably why like you're becoming a chiropractor or you are a chiropractor anyways because with any injury I see a lot of people who like identify with the injury because now they can't identify with the thing that they were doing before. So now what they are is their injury. And then they stick with that and they're stuck in the pain and they don't know what to do. So you being consistent and like working through like you were sensitive to almost every single direction, but you found something, that low hanging fruit. Um, how has that like changed your mindset when looking at patients that are in front of you now?
I mean, I think a big thing for me changing because I used to think that pain was the site. What before I got into chiropractic school, I was like, that's if there's pain there, that's where the injury is, right? And I had so like for me example, like as an example, I had pain not only in my low back, but it was radiating down both of my legs. And at the time, I was a little baby try one. Like know I didn't know anything at the time. Like I had worked with patients before, but I didn't know anything about McKenzie. I didn't know anything about DNS. Like I knew some stuff about referral patterns, but I wasn't really too familiar. And it just goes to show that sometimes where you're feeling pain isn't always the root cause of the issue. And I stress that out to my patients. It's like pain is just our body's way of telling us, hey, like it's just a little indicator, like, hey, like what's going on here? It's wanting some sort of change or wanting us to say, hey, something's not right. Doesn't necessarily mean that that's the exact site where the injury is happening. So I think that's a big thing that I go and I take into like my patients is that like I have to continuously remind myself like they're like, man, I have pain here, like here on my knee. It's like, okay, I have to remind myself, even though they're having pain on their knee, yes, look at their knee, examine their knee, touch them where it hurts, but also know there could be something way more deep that's underlying.
For sure. Um, I think pain is such an interesting concept to talk about because, like, I always wonder, like, why are there referrals? Like, why isn't it the spot that's there? And where do those like I know in like embryology we learn about like how those referral patterns are like created and stuff, but like why does that happen? Those are always like questions that I think to myself. Um and like probably our patients are questioning still, and I can't wait to dive into like all that information to learn more about it. But you had mentioned the like with your injury, you had talked about the like your identity within powerlifting and figuring out that you were more than powerlifting. What was that like working through a situation like that?
It was so difficult. It was so difficult because that's all I ever identified with. That's if I'm being really honest. And it was a really big eye opener for me because I'm way more than just strong physically. And it allowed me to see what other awesome characteristics I have. And it really opened the door for me to allow me to flourish in so many different ways other than physical strength.
Mm.
And even like people that knew me, they're like, oh, she's the powerlifter. She's the powerlifter. She's the powerlifter. And it allowed people to know me on a little bit deeper level, I feel. So shifting away from the powerlifting identity, I was trying to find myself. I was like, should I do other sports? Like I've always been an athletic. Like I don't know what to do. And sometimes you don't always have to be, oh, she's the powerlifter, she's the chiropractor. Like you can just be kind. You can be loving. You can be caring. You can be empathetic. Like it doesn't have to be an identification or titles of this specific thing, like chiropractor or powerlifter.
Mhm.
I think that's something really, really important that a lot of people don't see is that there are so many people that identify with those things. But at the end of the day, you're a person. It's like, what are the characteristics that make you you? So I think that's kind of like the way my mind shifted whenever I was like, oh my gosh, what happened to powerlifting? It's like, well, I'm so many other things. Like I can enjoy life, even if I never powerlifted again, which is something crazy to think about. But like, I'm so much more than just powerlifting.
Mhm.
And it was something very difficult to navigate. I don't know if you've ever experienced anything like that where you've kind of had a little crisis where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not this anymore.
Yeah. It's actually related to lifting. So when I was trying to get my menstrual cycle back, I didn't have it for like 5 years. And then I was just over exercising, too much movement, and to the point where like I was stepping like 20,000 steps a day while lifting, and it was just like not fueling enough. And I would slowly like take back on like the steps. And then it turned into like, okay, maybe I'll do like less lifting, or like I'll like do 30 or not 30, 3-minute rests in between every single set always. And it just finally, it was like, okay, I got to stop working out. Like that's the last lever that I can really pull. And like within that, it was like a week and I had got my cycle back. And like I've still dealt with like issues with my hormones, like, and I think school like doesn't help that either.
Mhm.
But back then I just remember like leaving the gym felt like the worst possible situation in my life. I was like, I'm the active girl, I'm the healthy girl, like why does this feel like this is being taken away from me? And I remember like you were saying, like I can be that kind person. Or I think that's also one of the reasons why I ended up making my podcast, was being like, I am more than just the healthy girl or the girl that's active. I'm like, I want to share information. I want to help people. And like, I can do that through a creative outlet like my podcast. And that's what, like, if I never stepped away from the gym, then like maybe that wouldn't have ever happened.
And it's so funny how we're talking about like the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
It's like if I this had never happened or if that had never happened, these things wouldn't have came about. And it's so funny. Our situations are a little bit different. As far as you were over exercising, and I would say I was maybe like in high school, maybe that was a situation, but I wasn't fueling my body enough. And those are two different things. And not having your period is a really serious thing. It's something that a lot of providers don't take seriously, I feel. Whenever I don't know if you have had those experiences where I've gone into like certain providers and they're like, well, you just got to get on birth control.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
you have painful periods, you get on birth control. And it's like, I don't want to be pumping in those hormones. I don't want to be on birth control. Like, is there anything else that I can do? Like, nope,
Hmm.
nope, that's nope. You got to be on birth control if you want your painful periods to be, because when I started getting my periods back again, it was excruciating. I remember I had to go to the urgent care one time because
Mm.
I thought something was wrong. I was throwing up. Like it was so painful, and I was like, something's not right. Something is not right. And just as of this year, I started looking a little bit more into my health for my menstrual cycle. And the doc here that I work with here at Complete Health and Wellness, she specifically focuses on female hormones, and she's a wizard with that kind of stuff. She's such a wizard. And this is like the first year where I haven't had painful periods,
That's
which is
crazy.
crazy. But like, can you talk about a little bit about your experiences with people that you've come in contact with, as far as like medical providers that have told you you just need to be on birth control?
Oh, yeah. I had many people tell me, to the point where like my parents got mad at me for like denying birth control, because every time we'd go in, like I'd come in with like anger blazing, being like, I know they're gonna tell me go on birth control, but I'm upfront gonna tell you, like, nope, it's not gonna happen. And then I'd see the eye roll within the doctor, and I knew that like this wasn't like the right physician for me. But then with that, it's like yes, I was angry, but I had to do something with that. So I dived into like No Period Now What book. I dived into podcasts. I was like, if someone isn't going to give me the answer, I'm going to find it. And I think that's why I decided to go down the whole like nutrition rabbit hole, because I found like that helped me so much.
Mm.
Um, and then now with like, I was diagnosed with PCOS. And so then now going through that and dealing with that, and it being, most people think of like PCOS as like the super heavy girl that like has like unhealthy diet and like isn't active and stuff like that, and like has really heavy periods, or they're like super inconsistent. And I was like, mine aren't that, yet I'm diagnosed with this. So sometimes I even question, like, is it really PCOS, or is it just like we don't understand what's happening with your cycle, so like we're just going to put you under this umbrella? So like now I've even gotten to the point of like, okay, you know what, I'm tired of like just getting the general like we think it's this just based off of like a pelvic exam, um and like you having like follicles and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, gonna get my hormones tested, figure what's actually happening, and then adjust my nutrition to that. And then like thankfully, like we have professors like Dr. Hollinsworth and like Dr. Shemak. She had like, I had asked him, I was like, hey, can you help me like read this and figure this out? And they're like, yes. And I think again, it's like, it sucks that I have to like go through something like this, or like it sucks that like you had to go through your injury, but like that is what's going to make us better practitioners in the future. And like it fuels me to like help other people
Mm.
in that way, because I don't want them to have to struggle through like what I am going through right now, because it stinks having to do it on your own, but it also has like weirdly also empowered me in like my own body.
And it's so, so true. Like the more that you get to experience, you're able to share those things with your patients. And like you said, it stinks. It stinks so bad. Like I don't want anybody else to have to go through these things either. But you get a better understanding of what patients are dealing with when you're the one that has also been through it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to empathize so much more because you've been in their shoes. You've been doing this, and it empowers you because you go to all these different providers and nobody's been able to help you, and you want to be that person for somebody. You want to be the person that tells them you don't have to, like, obviously you're going to give them all the recommendations, like you can take birth control, you can do all these things, but there are also holistic natural alternatives that you can do that can help you with whatever you're dealing with. And it's so cool. And it's not necessarily that medicine is a bad thing. I think there's a time and place for it, but there's so many preventative things that we can do. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many natural, non-invasive things that we can do before we jump to medication, before we jump to surgery, before we jump to these things, and it's really such a shame that like healthcare here in the United States doesn't really care about preventative healthcare.
Yeah.
It doesn't really focus on that. And I've talked to different chiropractors that take insurance and like, well, we don't get reimbursed that much, or we're not able to do this because it's preventative. I talked to somebody the other day that said that their mom needed to get like a scope done in their knee just to like clean out some stuff, and they're like, no, the insurance would only pay for a total knee replacement, when that she didn't even need a knee replacement. Yeah, it was
That's
crazy,
crazy.
crazy, crazy, crazy. I was like, that's so insane. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it definitely is. I wish more people could get the care that they wanted. Like I was literally having a conversation with a friend the other day. And especially cuz we just took like a business class, and the whole talk about like, are you going to take insurance, are you not? And what hurts my heart is that I feel like the people who need the care the most are the ones that can't access it.
Mhm.
And like I like, as a chiropractor, I'm gonna need to get paid. Like, for me to keep my doors open, I'm gonna need to get paid. But like, I also want the people who need the help to like get the help, because like me as a broke chiropractic student right now, like I can't do all the things that like someone else who might have PCOS can do, who has like a job that is consistent. But like, I also feel like I deserve to like get the same sort of like health, or like at least like get the answers that I need to like work towards my health. I am a firm believer that like hit your big rocks, like get the sleep in check, get your like nutrition, get your exercise, stuff like that. But like if things still aren't working, then like there's some sort of gap that isn't being filled. So anyways, when I was talking with my friend, I was like, I want to be able to take insurance because I know the people who really, really need the help, like they can only afford help through the insurance. But then if you take that insurance route, like you can't actually give them that full health that they actually want and need. Just like your example with the mom with the knee, where it was like she needed something else, but like they couldn't actually give it to her.
Yeah. And it's really unfortunate too. I've talked to other rehab chiros that excuse me, that dabble in, functional nutrition, and they feel the exact same way too. And it's super, super unfortunate that we're not able to give this care to everybody. And like as a new chiropractor, I want to give all the care to every single person. And I've talked to my doctor, and she's like, you know, it's hard when you have a schedule, you have other patients you got to see, you know, or like you said, we gotta keep our mouths fed also, and keep our doors open so that we can continue helping people. Because
Mhm.
if we can't, then if we can't help these few people, we can't help anybody, right? And it's really, really unfortunate and sad
Yeah.
that healthcare is the way it is.
Yeah. And that's what I love about the podcast space, or even like I know a lot of people like hate on Instagram, but like the information, if you find the right information, that like people are finally able to come out with that information, you can find it a little bit easier. Like for the longest time it was just that like the birth control. But then now it's like people are able to question that and be like, hey, maybe I shouldn't be taking birth control. Are there natural methods that I could be taking if I like am not concerned about not conceiving? Um, so there's like obviously a pro and a con to like this space. But at least we're slowly being able to like give that information when we have the time and availability. Be once we like are able to consistently have patients and be like, okay, I have a little slot here, I can give back to my community.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing about like chiropractors is that we're just like doctors in general. I think whether that's medical doctors, PAs, PTs, DOs, chiros, it's so important to give back to your community and to the students that are still learning, because they're going to be people that are going to go out into the community and try to help others. And like you said, some people can't access all this amazing healthcare, all this preventative healthcare that can prevent you from XYZ down the line. So giving back to the community is like a little bit of a way that we can give our care for free while
Mm,
still taking care of ourselves as well.
for sure. I'm curious because you've talked about a little bit, you talked a little bit about like DNS and like MD, or I know you do MDT and like neurodynamics and stuff like that. How is that different, and how is that going to be more beneficial to athletes? Because I don't think a lot of people know what this stuff is unless you're like within the rehab space.
Yeah. So it's beneficial to anybody that's walking into the clinic, if I'm being honest, not specifically to athletes, but I mean it can be so specific, just depending on how you implement it. Because so DNS looks at the development from newborn to the first year of life, and it looks at those positions that are so important for our functional movement. We do them every day. We squat every day. We do, ipsilateral patterns every single day, especially rotational athletes. They're winding up that thing, they're throwing, or they're, hitting the racket. And I work with a lot of pickleball players. So they're rotational athletes as well. And seeing how that translates to like DNS and how that can implement with their training is really, really cool. And I've been able to see a lot of improvement through just certain DNS positions and how they can activate certain muscles, and their pain is gone or their function drastically improves within X amount of visits. So I mean, like I said, I think it's great for everybody that's walking into the clinic. You're able to create abdominal pressure, and not only that, but now you're creating a nice stable base to generate force through other parts of your body. So I think it's awesome. It's so great, and allows athletes to become more powerful as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, for the people who don't know, like, why do I want to be creating pressure within my abdominals? Like, why is that important?
So it's super, super important. I think the biggest analogy that like Cody DMAC uses, would you rather shoot a cannon off a canoe? Like, you don't want to shoot a cannon off a canoe. You're creating a stable base. So you're creating proximal stability for distal mobility. So if we don't have any sort of stable aspect, we're not going to be able to move through the most expression that we can of our distal limbs, so our extremities, like our arms and our legs and things like that. We're not going to be able to generate as much power as we would like. So another analogy that I like to use is like, we can't fly a flag if the flagpole isn't standing. The flagpole is a nice, solid, sturdy thing that we can fly the flag on. So the flagpole would be our creating that intra-abdominal pressure. And not only that, but it allows us to create decompression on our discs if done right. So I don't know if you've ever seen like a decompression machine. Like, we kind of learned about it in our class, right? So some people don't have access to that. And not saying that this completely replaces it, but we're able to create that decompressive force on our spine if we're doing DNS right, which is so, so cool.
And I love that, because then that kind of like empowers the patient, where they're like, I don't have to be attached to this table forever. And I love creating independence within like patients. So
That's one thing that I really, really pride myself on, is reminding my patient that I'm not a healer. I'm not, I'm here to guide you. I'm here to guide you through this, and we're working together. I'm not going to solve all your problems for you, but I am going to help you through them. And I'm going to help you figure out what the root cause of the problem is, and I'm going to take you through this journey together. I think that's something really, really important that patients have a misconception about, is that they're like, I want a quick fix and I want you to heal me. And it's like, well, sorry, but that's not how it goes.
Take your sage and rub it all over me.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you though. I love, love, love being able to empower my patients to be able to do stuff at home. Another thing that I always say is that, like, we can only get so much done within an hour visit, because I see my patients for an hour. So we can only get so much done in 1 hour, right? It's what you do outside of our visit that really, really makes a difference. I'm here to critique you. If you're doing your exercise at home, you're like, man, like, this is not feeling the best at home. It's like, all right, well, as soon as you get in here, I'm not going to do anything. I want you to set it up exactly how you've been doing it at home, and we're going to look at it together. And then I'll be like, oh, let's fix this here. Let's do this here. Let's make these tweaks. And they're like, oh my gosh, that feels so much better. Now I can move more confidently. And I have one patient. She hasn't gone to the gym in like 2 years because she's scared to move. And today we lifted our first ever like 25-pound weight, and we did some RDLs and some lunges today. And she was so pumped up, and it gets me so, so excited to see women excited to lift weights. Like, it's just so great. It's such a great feeling.
That's amazing. And I'm so happy that like you're able to create that experience for people to just like to get stronger and feel better within their bodies. I have one final question before we like get into like where people can find you and all the stuff. And that is, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would you tell him?
Man, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
Tough question. I would definitely tell my younger self not to be so hard on herself. I was always super critical with everything I did. And anybody that knows me, especially in powerlifting, they would know that I'm such like I don't want to say meticulous, but I'm very hard on myself when it comes to failure, when it comes to, you know, obstacles that I'm dealing with. I'm very, very hard. And it's not that serious. It's not that deep. Learn from it and move on is the
Hmm.
biggest thing that I have learned is everyone's going to fail. It's better to fail faster. That way you learn faster, you
Yeah,
know?
failing forward.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at Dr. Benchbabe or Dr. Leann Ramirez. I'm currently accepting new patients here in Louisville, Texas at Complete Health and Wellness. But you can always shoot me a DM. I'm super open to talking about anything, even if it's just questions about school, questions about life, or if you just want to chat. I'm here. I'm open arms, and I'm always willing to talk to anybody and everybody.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being on the podcast, Leann. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it so much. I love getting to talk to you and getting to, spread, information too, like we kind of talked about earlier.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Becca Babbles podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, the best thing that you can do is leave a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or any other listening platform of your choosing. If you want to learn more about me, you can do that by following me on Instagram at Becca and Wellness or by checking out my blog, freebies, offers, and newsletter on my website at beccaandwellness.com. If you want to share the love of the podcast, you can do that by taking a screenshot and sharing it on social media and tagging me and the podcast at Becca and Wellness and using the hashtag Becca Babbles Podcast. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I can't wait to babble with you next time.